Hey everyone, I'm Kristen, the cross stitching runner, and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning subscribers. And if by chance you've stumbled across this channel is all about cross stitch with a bit of life stuff thrown in. Today is Sunday, the 23rd of July, and I've got a lot of cross stitch to share with you. It feels like almost every episode is like a mini whip parade, and I know that we've entered into the midpoint of the year where a lot of people are doing whip parades and that kind of thing. I figure I'll probably wait until maybe the end of this calendar year. That way, we'll be able to see a huge difference between maybe the start and the end of the year, and I might even have a few more finishes up my sleeve as well. Speaking of finishes, and I'll share it towards the end of this episode, I have a finish and it's one of my own designs as well, which I'm really excited about, and I've got a question about it as well. So stick around and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. So let's get into the stitching side of things. With the challenge that I've been doing for myself based on the AFL, the Australian Football League, I have caught up on some of my stitching. I got sick. I got a bit of a cold. I'm still recovering from it a little, but it meant that I needed to take some time off work and to try and recover, and it enabled me to catch up on some things, which means that I've got the stitching for rounds 17 and 18 of the stitching challenge that I'm doing. That is based on the final score of the winning teams for each round, and we're partway through round 19. So the stitching that I'm going to be sharing with you are for rounds 17 and 18. And I guess a little bit of round 19 for where it's practical. So the first project I have to share with you is Midnight Glow. It's a chart, pardon me, it's a chart by Kustom Krafts. It's a project that has been sort of in and out of rotation for several years, and in theory, if I focus on it, especially next year, I hopefully, and this is a stitches hopefully, will have it finished by the end of next year. So with Midnight Glow, in round 17, so nearly 2 weeks ago, put 98 stitches into it, and then last week I put 122 stitches into it, resulting in getting close to a page finish. So this is where I'm focusing on at the moment, and I'll bring it in just a little bit closer. So I'm stitching this on 14 count Ada, and it's fabric that I've had in my stash for ages, and I am using DMC threads 2/1, and it's coming along beautifully. And on the chart I've probably cut off a few hundred stitches because of fabric, but it's going to be worth it. I don't think we'll be missing too much. So it means that some of the mane or tail that we see along the bottom here, I won't be stitching all of it, but I'll still definitely be able to get the muzzle of the horse, its nose and its mouth in without any fuss at all. So it's going to look pretty cool when it's done. So it's quite possible that I'll get it framed up, though I've also been thinking, like, I've got a lot of charts to do with horses and that kind of thing, and I've considered maybe doing like another quilt, but considering how long it's going to take me to get a lot of these horse projects done, I will most likely be retired by the time I actually get round to making another horse themed quilt. So I don't know, wait and see. That said, the next project I have to share with you is one that is very much a focus piece for me this year, as well as it being part of the stitching challenge that I'm doing. And it's another custom crafts chart. This one is Water Tiger 2. And if you by chance have stumbled across my previous episode, you have heard me talk about a customization, like a significant customization, significant to me, customization or personalization, where I changed the color of the eyes of the tiger. And with this particular tiger, just before I show the piece, with round 17, I put a minimum of 88 stitches into it because Richmond Tigers won that game. And then for last week, I put a minimum of 98 stitches. And I'm saying minimums here because with this Water Tiger project, my aim is to stitch at least one square per day. It doesn't always work out that way because of life stuff, how I'm feeling, and all the rest. But it means that I'm on the last page here. And what I'm doing at the moment is focusing quite a lot on the big blocks or chunks of colour, and it's coming on beautifully. And so with the eyes here, that's the customization that I did, where I just compared some of the shades of blue that I have in my stash with, I guess, the charted colours, just to see if I could get, I guess, the ratio of dark, light, and in between right. And it's coming. I'm still really impressed with how it's turned out. So I'm stitching this on what I think is 18 count. It's potentially a Lagana or an even weave or something along those lines, because it's definitely not an Ada. It's a green fabric that I've had in my stash for a really long time. I picked it up from Victoria House Needlework. I get the name of that store muddled up so much because I don't visit it regularly. It's a store here in Australia at Mittagong. Mittagong's probably almost like a halfway point between Canberra and Sydney. So it's a good stop off point for the crafty people. So I'm using all the called for, or I guess with the exception of the eyes, the called for colours, stitching 2/1. And as long as I don't look too closely at the stitches, it'll be all right, because I will definitely see so many, oh my goodness, things about the stitches that I'll be like, oh, I need to even that up, even this up. But hey, it's all about the journey and not worrying about how perfect things are, at least in my headspace when it comes to the stitching. So, the next project that I have to share with you is a dimensions kit. It's called Barnyard Kittens, or more specifically, Dimensions calls it Barnyard Kitties. I call it Kittens, Barnyard Kittens. So, with this project, a couple of weeks ago, what did I do? I've got notes here in front of me. I put a minimum of 125 stitches in a couple of weeks ago, and then last week I put a minimum of 122. So this one's definitely seen a good 240 plus stitches in it, and most of it's been in the 10th stitch or half stitch realm. But the really cool thing is that I'm getting closer to finishing one side of the barn door that the kittens are hanging out in. So this is where it's at now. And with the way that I'm counting a lot of the projects that I'm sharing with you, I'm just doing the stitches regardless of whether it's half stitch or full cross. And I'm mentioning this because I know that with other stitching retreats and challenges and such that I've been part of, the organisers of those events have been quite adamant, saying, well, if you're going to do 10th stitch or half stitch, that you'll need to do double the amount of what a full cross will be, because it takes half the time because you're doing half the stitch to get the stitching done. So in this particular case, just for my own ease of mind and to continue enjoying things, that's where my logic is like, it's a stitch, it's a stitch. I'm doing it. So it's also the fact that it's a dimensions kit. So if anyone here has stitched a dimensions kit, you'll know how unique they are and why the brand or the company name is Dimensions, because they have, like with the 10th stitch here or the half stitch, it's a combination of two single threads, for example, to have two strands, or it's two strands of white, two strands of dark brown to then give it a different dimension, or it's a full cross, but it's like one strand of yellow with one strand of orange, or anything in between like that, or any variation like that. So that's where it gives that dimension, it gives that texture that some projects genuinely need, and is part of why these dimensions kits just look so cool. So with Barnyard Kittens, it'll be interesting to see how long it takes me to get this one done. I don't anticipate this one being a focus piece at any time in the near future. But considering that AFL really only goes for 6 months of the year, who knows? Wait and see. Okay, the next project that I have to share with you is one that sort of been a bit hit and miss in terms of how often it's shown, mostly because the Gold Coast Suns have had a bit of a up and down kind of year. So Design Works, this is the next project. I started doing this just because of the beautiful colours that are in this, the rainbow colours, and they've done this project really well in terms of the design of it and that kind of thing. So this one's just called Zebras, and with the Gold Coast Suns, I don't think they won their game a couple of weeks ago. Not that I'm seeing with my notes anyway, but they did win last week, and I put a minimum of 77 stitches into it. With the Suns this weekend, I think they may be playing, but I'm not anticipating them to win. So this may be just for 1 week, bit of effort. So the I guess bit of stitching that I did focus on was a little bit around here, around this side of things. So just focusing on a lot of the really dark purple aspect of things, and I'm looking forward to just coming down and doing the lower half of this project because it's got some really cool colours. So just as a comparison, yeah, that's what I'm just really looking forward to, um, seeing how it all goes. And it's just the variety of colours that I don't normally work with, and that's where I'm enjoying it a fair bit. It's not full coverage either. So it's keeping me on my toes, which is nice, which is good. I don't have, I guess with full coverage, we've got the flexibility of personalising it and getting away with the odd colour here and there not being quite right and it not having a significant impact on the project. So wait and see. It's all good. Okay, next project. This one I'm actually surprised that I've not been giving it as much love as what I was expecting it to. Because I know last year, huge amount of work got done on it. So this particular project is one that I've called 12 Days of Christmas. It's a pattern that's out of the Ultimate Cross Stitch Christmas magazine. It's the 2018 edition, and it's a chart by Rhona Norrie. And this is, I guess, the recommended way of finishing it, recommended fabrics, that kind of thing. So already I've personalised this in the sense that I'm not stitching it on the navy blue fabric that they're recommending, and I think the fabric count, I've chosen a different fabric count. So this particular project I've had associated with St Kilda Saints and Sydney Swans. Both teams have had a bit of a kind of season, but in round 17, let's see, Saints I thought were going to win, but they didn't. And I'm just checking the notes to see if, because these are the notes. I don't know if Swans won either, because I'm not seeing this project at all. So round 17 it got no love, but round 18 it got some love, where I put a minimum of 78 stitches because Swans won. I expected Saints to win, but they didn't. But round 19, so this weekend, last night Swans played, they won, and I need to put a minimum. What do I need? A minimum, I think it's 105, over 100 stitches anyway. And I'm anticipating Saints to win this weekend as well, so we'll wait and see. So this is the progress that I've made, and I've actually started doing a lot of backstitch. So just to put it into perspective, I've started putting a lot of the backstitch in around where the drums are. They still need a little bit more backstitch, and I've just started doing some backstitch around where the trumpets are. And then you may also notice that I've got some backstitch around where the rings are. So it's coming together, and this is where I probably should put a bit more stitching in near the top, just to finish off the tree, and then the fun will be doing the border. But it should be easy enough. It'll just be easy stitching. But like with anyone, if you have had to do any kind of border, there is that element of nervousness of when you get the final corner meeting up as to whether it's like, oh, have I stitched far enough or not enough? Those sorts of nervousnesses. So fingers crossed all goes well. I'm sure it'll be fine. And worst case is that the frog comes to visit. So we'll wait and see. So it's getting there. There could be a finish of this one this year, maybe early next year. We'll wait and see. I'm not going to put any promises onto this one, mostly because a lot of our stitches are, on me at least, I can't speak for everyone, but I know that it's a common theme that we have the ability to say, oh yes, we'll get something done by this time, and life happens or we misjudge just how much actually got done, and it doesn't end up happening. So we'll wait and see. With that in mind, the next project I have to share with you is a Bothy threads kit. So this one is a dictionary of dogs, and I'm working on dog ends at the moment, and I've already finished the larger dog in terms of stitching. I'll just need to do the back stitch eventually, and so I'm working on the poodle end at the moment. This one's connected to the Western Bulldogs, and this is where it's at the moment. It's really light stitching at the moment. However, mostly because it's sort of the white, and that's where the backstitch will really make a difference to really show where the poodle end is. So with the Western Bulldogs, they didn't win round 17. I don't know if they even won round 18. No, they didn't. I expected them to, but they didn't. So this weekend, they did win. They played on Friday by memory, and I put a minimum of 90 stitches in. So that's why I'm sharing it with you. Again, this is why I actually, while I was sick, I wanted to get a bit more organised. So I bought myself some of these books just from my local supermarket in their stationery section. And it's actually really nice having this in a book format rather than just random pages floating around. And I've even got things set up where it's simply writing, but I've got listed all the teams and which projects I've got associated with them. I've got the dates for this year saying, okay, it started in not the project, but the stitching challenge. Started 16th of March, is due to go till the 30th of September. And eventually I need to update this. But I've got a page here that I'll update where it'll be the page where I'll have all the stitches done on each project, like the total amounts. So that would be really cool to actually see all that. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The next project I have to share with you is one of my own designs. It is black and white rolled up daisy, and round 17 it didn't get any work done because I was expecting the team to win, but they didn't. Round 18, Collingwood won, and I put a minimum of 113 stitches in. And then this weekend, I think Collingwood did play. They got their asses handed to them. So it really was just a minimum of 113 stitches. So this is what the project will look like when it's done. So this chart is available as a physical purchase or digital download, and it's available on my Etsy store and the Hot Cross Stitching website as well. So yeah, if by chance you're interested, check it out and go from there. So with this project, it's a combination of 10 stitch and full cross. I'm stitching this on 18 count black Aida using all DMC threads, and this is where I'm at so far. And I started doing the background as full cross and then started to do tent stitch because the background's just really boring. That's what I find anyway. And again, me being the designer, it's the learning curve to figure out, well, how much of the background really is necessary? Can I get rid of it? So the aim also is just to sort of see how it's all going. But yeah, this might end up being hopefully a focus piece next year, but because this is a little bit like a mini show and tell, we'll wait and see, because priorities may change, life may change. We'll wait and see. Okay, next project. What's going on? Pisces, Port Adelaide. Okay, so this is a combination of two things. It's a quote that I found online, and I also really love. Like, even though the printer started dying towards the end, I just love the colours and such of the Pisces symbols and such as well. So the quote on this one is Pisces. Not everyone gets the same version of me. One person will tell you I'm a beautiful soul. Another will tell you I'm a cold-hearted arsehole. I act accordingly. Believe both. I act accordingly. So it's coming along. I'm actually enjoying that with this chart. I'm not working as much on 3808, which is that teal colour. So I'm stitching 2/2. This is where I'm at the moment, and I've started sort of branching out a bit just to try and get a bit of variety and make things just interesting for me at the moment. And Port Adelaide are having an absolute blitzer of a season. They are doing really well. I actually hadn't expected them to do as well as what they have been so far. So with round 17, they won their game, and I put a minimum of 106 stitches in. Round 18, I expected them to win, but they didn't. Port Adelaide, I believe, played last night, but I haven't noted down how much I need to put in to the project just yet. So wait and see. But yeah, work in progress on that one in terms of the season so far. I probably won't touch it once the season ends. It'll probably just be part of the 6 month challenge. So that's that. Now, the next project I have to share with you, I don't actually have the cover page with me because it's in a magazine that I've got down in Canberra. I've really only got the chart that I can't really share. So this one is Midnight Owls, and Essendon won their game in round 17, and I put a minimum of 115 stitches in, and they didn't win last. No, they didn't win last weekend, but and I think they lost this round as well. Anyway, round 17 at least, I put 115 stitches in, and this is where I'm at. So I've just started working on the scarf that the second owl is wearing, and I've put some work into the top of the owl's head. So it's coming along really nicely, and I've misplaced a couple of colours, so I need to try and go through my couch, see if they're floating around in there or if I've got them sitting somewhere else. But I'm looking forward to getting the face filled in and the body, so that way it's not just the head and the scarf floating around in the sky, so to speak. I am stitching this on 18 count, I think navy blue Ada, or yeah, not quite navy blue, but it's a dark blue anyway. And I think it's very similar to the called for fabric. Definitely using all the called for colours, all DMC threads. There will even be the moon in the background that will have like um, like a, um, a glow to it. So it's one of those ones where it sort of glows in the dark kind of specialty thread thing that DMC do. So that will be really cool to see that eventually happen. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it that I have to say on that one. I'm just going to pause for a moment. I'll be back really soon. Okay, so the next project that I have to share with you is one called Mini Mushrooms. It's almost got two names, where sometimes I've called it Gundaroo Mini Mushrooms. So this is what the project will look like when it's done, or something very similar to this. And again, this is a physical chart, and it's also available as a digital download when I can talk properly. So it's available on my Etsy store and Hot Cross Stitching website as well. And this is one that has been going for about 3 to 4 years. And I've been stitching this on 14 count Ada. I know that the project does suggest 18 count black Ada. Typo on my end, but this one has been associated with hawthorn, mostly because of the browns, mushroom brown. And this is what it's looking like at the moment. And this is only half of the project. So again, this is probably one of the first charts that I had converted as a photo. So from a distance, this thing looks like, whoa. And one that I'll probably need to adjust in terms of shrinking it down to a smaller size. So this is the, I guess, area that I've been focusing on a bit at the moment. And I've put, for round 18, because this is the only round that they've won a game in for a little while, a minimum of 88 stitches. And last night or yesterday, recently, this weekend, Hawthorn played against Richmond, and it was a really close game. Like Hawthorn They lost the game by 1 point, and they'd been leading the game for most of the time, and so it was just really gutting for them to have played such a great game and just lost by 1 point. And yeah, it's a significant thing for me to mention because Hawthorn and Richmond, Hawthorn is the team that my pop supports, and Richmond is a team that my nan supports. So yeah, it's taken me a long time to remember that, mostly because it's only been in recent years that I've actually gotten into watching AFL a bit more. I've not really grown up in a sporting kind of family where we've sort of been interested in motorsport, horses, and that's about it. We've not been actively participating in sports. We've not actively sat down and been spectators of any specific sport for a lot of the time either, with the exception of horse riding and motorsports. So anyway, it is what it is. It's all cool. So hopefully I can get a bit more work done in mini mushrooms, and once I do get to the bottom of the page, it might end up being a question of whether I stitch the second half of the project or I just call it a day for that one go, hey, this is what half the project looks like at least. So I don't know, we'll wait and see. With that in mind, the next project that I have to share with you, and I need to update my stats a little bit. I was going to show Dewdrop Daisy, mostly because I've done a little bit of work on it. But in terms of the last few rounds, Fremantle that I've got this project associated with, they actually haven't won the last few games, like last 3 games, because they played last night against the Swans and they lost. Best way to put it, they lost. So with that in mind, I can't really say how many stitches I've put into the project, but this, just for the sake of showing things, I've been focusing over on this side a bit. This is what it looks like overall, and if this were to be a focus piece next year, it would be awesome to think that it could get done by the end of the calendar year next year. We'll wait and see. It could be one of those projects where it's associated with full coverage fanatics of getting 2024 stitches done. No, 20. Anyway, something could get done based on the year and how many stitches that need to get done. So, on a completely different note though, where I'm not sort of counting how many stitches per se, but still to do with the AFL challenge, GWS Giants, they won their game in round 17, and I've been working on the project called A Stitch in Time, which is by Heaven and Earth Designs, and when I bring up the cover page, though, if you are very much familiar with Heaven and Earth Designs and the project A Stitch in Time, this one is the Four Seasons one. This is a mini version, and it has been designed by, or the artwork is by Amy Stewart. And if I can get this up around the right way, this, and you get a mini tour of the unit. This is sort of roughly with the ring light reflection, the project that I'm working on. And I, for round 17, got a minimum of 85 stitches in. For round 18, when I can get the right page up, round 18, minimum of 71. Giants are still due to play, so I've gotten 148 stitches in at least for this project. So there is a thread hanging down, but this is where I'm at. And I'm stitching this on the easy grid fabric. I think it's like 28 count or thereabouts. And yeah, it's coming along really well. It's one of those sort of projects where when you see the project through the camera on the computer screen or whatever it is, really get to appreciate just how much I have been able to do. And even though there's still a fair bit to do, it's a labor of love. It's a really cool project to see, and one that I can definitely understand why I chose to start working on it. So hopefully the Giants can win their game today. Today's Sunday, so yeah, in theory they should be playing today. And hopefully I can get a bit more work done on it. And the last work in progress that I have to share with you is my other one that is not mine specifically. It is Fight Like a Girl, and it is one that has been designed by Tanya Amity, based on the illustration by Ilona Zhnedkova. This is sort of roughly what it's going to look like when it's done. And I know that Rebecca has been mentioning just how much she loves Pippi Longstockings, and I've been rewatching Gilmore Girls recently, and there's an episode in Gilmore Girls called "We Have Ourselves a Pippi Virgin," sorry, where the character Luke, he's never sat down and watched Pippi Longstockings, and yeah, so just that particular episode reminds me of the comments that you've been making, Rebecca, about Pippi Longstocking, and that she holds a special place in your heart for all of that. She holds a special place in your heart. That's what I'm trying to say. So with A Fight Like a Girl, I'm actually getting to the stage of where Pippi Longstocking is. So that's part of why I was rambling on about Gilmore Girls and the comments that have been coming through on some of the projects I've been working on, especially this one. So this is where I'm at so far. So you can see Pippi is really taking shape now, and she's holding up the book. With Fight Like a Girl, I've got this project associated with a couple of teams, the Brisbane Lions and the Melbourne Demons, and I've been able to get a heap of progress done on this project because of those teams. So in round 17, I stitched on Fight Like a Girl twice because Melbourne and Brisbane won their games. Melbourne won, and I put a minimum of 79 into it because of their game. And with Brisbane, I put a minimum of 116 stitches in because of their game. Then last week, what happened? Melbourne won their game, and I put a minimum of 105 stitches in. And Brisbane either didn't play or they lost. Either way, it was just Melbourne, and it was the 105. So this round, I'm anticipating putting at least two more lots in. So Brisbane won their game, and I need to put in 64 stitches in when I get it around the right way. Melbourne is still due to play, so I don't know if they'll win or not. But with this particular project, this helps as a good segue into backstitch. So I do need to actually fix up some of the stitches that have come loose as far as the backstitch is concerned. But this is where I'm getting to the next stage of this particular episode, where I have finished. But the question that I have for you, if you're still stuck around with all this rambling, how much of a difference does backstitch really make if we're dealing with a full coverage? So to put it into perspective, Fight Like a Girl is a full coverage piece. I know that for much of a muchness, it does have tent stitch in it, and for the full coverage fanatics, they may, if I were to post this particular project in and say that it was partially full cross, partially tent stitch, I may be told that it's not truly full coverage. And that's pretty much what I was told with this finish that I was done, that I've just done. So this is done. This is finished. This is my finish. And this is the weird thing. As I'm looking at this project through the camera at this distance, I don't think this piece needs any backstitch to give context to the petals that are in the middle here. However, if we bring this in closer, this starts to look a little bit like a splash of colour. So my question is, do I need, how much of import, get my words right, does this need any backstitch of any form to help highlight some of the petals and such that are in the centre here? Because on one hand, I don't think it needs it. But then when I've shown this to some people who don't do cross stitch, they've not really been able to see what the picture actually is. And this is where I know that backstitch or although a similar type of stitching really adds to a project. It helps to highlight the key elements or key features of a project. And as much as I at least grumble about doing backstitch, and I know other stitchers dislike backstitch as well because of different reasons. For me, it's a time consuming thing. It's an annoyance more than anything. But I know that when it is done, it's like, yes, I'm glad that I did that backstitch, and I can fully appreciate just the extra detail that is in the project. So this is where, yeah, I'm just in two minds. I know that I'm going to frame this up. I've bought two different sized frames for this, and one is a smaller frame. It's both are black. One will have matting in it, the other won't. If I choose to use the smaller frame where I won't use the matting, I will probably take the glass out just so it's not sitting on the, it's just so that the glass isn't right up against the actual stitching, just so that it lasts longer, but then it means that it's going to attract dust. So it defeats the purpose almost of that side of things. But if I do frame this and use matting, I know that the matting will be changed in the sense that I've got some quilting fabric that is like a dark navy blue or a similar shade that will help to highlight or help support just the gorgeousness and amazing view of this project. So this is where a hot cross stitching larger project is finished, because I know that I have finished some others of my designs, which are those really cute little biscornus. But this is very much the first of mine that has been a photo conversion that is finished, and it just looks so cool. Like I'm just admiring this through the camera and how it's showing up on the computer screen. It is just looking absolutely gorgeous and amazing. And with the photos that I took of this and posted on Facebook and in the Aussie Cross Stitches group, it didn't show up as well as what I thought, but thought it might. But through this at the moment, it is just looking so good, and This was stitched on 14 count black Ada. The chart at the moment recommends stitching it on 40 count even weave or linen or something like that. But stitching this on black, I think, makes the world of difference. So that way you don't have to stitch a bucket load of black to get the same effect. And I think this has been well and truly worth stitching on the black. So I'll wrap it up now in the sense that that's pretty much all of the stitching that I have to share. So I'm really keen to hear from anyone who has thoughts on the backstitch for the project and whether it's going to make much of a difference or not. I'm keen to hear your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not much to say as far as life stuff going on. Next weekend, I'll most likely be traveling down to Canberra for a quick visit, and then we'll wait and see. I don't have really many other plans for travel or anything like that, so I guess I shall see you all in a couple of weeks' time. Happy stitching!